Takumi is a loser virgin who has been summoned to another world with no body and finds himself standing before the goddess Nolan. But the first thing she does is offer a heartfelt apology, explaining that everything was a massive mistake. When a summoning spell is activated, it randomly pulls loser virgins from Earth to be isekai'd. Takumi, however, wasn't supposed to be included since his life was going well, but a mishap dragged him here along with the others. This error happened because the Holy Sedonia Empire recklessly activated the summoning spell. Unlike the other summoned heroes who went straight to Sedonia, Takumi ended up here with Nolan because he wasn't meant to be summoned. When Takumi asks if she can send him back to Earth, Nolan explains she can't. She was so furious at Sedonia for using the forbidden spell that she removed it from this world's magic laws, making interworld travel impossible. To make things worse, the process killed him, leaving him as a ghost. Takumi panics, but Nolan reassures him she has a solution. While she can't return him to Earth, she can provide him with a new body and help him settle in this world. As an apology for her role in the situation, she offers him her blessing to make his new life easier. With no real choice, Takumi agrees to be reborn, much to Nolan's relief as it simplifies things for her. Nolan instructs Takumi to check his status screen to preview his new life. When he does, he discovers that Nolan plans to give him a 17-year-old body despite his being 40. She dismisses the details and emphasizes the importance of choosing a job. Takumi learns there are two main job categories: combat-focused roles like swordsman, knight, or hunter, and production jobs. Uninterested in fighting, he opts for a production role. Nolan implants the job into his soul, adds bonus blessings, and sends him off without a tutorial. Takumi crash lands in a forest, sees his reflection in a river, and realizes he's truly changed. No arthritis and a younger body. Determined to make the best of his new life, he checks the bag Nolan left, finding food, money, and other essentials. His status screen reveals a wealth of skills, including elemental magic, which he decides to try out first. Takumi stretches out his hand, summons a water ball, and it instantly materializes. He realizes the other elements function similarly, mastering them on his first attempt. Now understanding his magic, Takumi decides to head to the nearest village. On the way, he notices a remarkable stick on the path, scans it with his appraisal skill, and learns it's Trent wood, ideal for crafting magic staves and spears. Testing his modeling skill, he turns it into a spear. Encouraged, he searches for more materials and finds numerous useful plants, spending an hour gathering them. Lacking space in his bag, he recalls his item box skill and stores them all. Suddenly, a scream pierces the air and a young girl emerges from the bushes, seeking help from a monster. Turning, Takumi sees a massive horned rabbit charging at him. In a panic, he instinctively strikes, accidentally killing it with a headshot. Takumi is stunned that a novice like him defeated such a powerful monster. He assumes Nolan's blessing is responsible, but it was actually just sheer luck. Despite the victory, he gains the warrior job title, much to his dismay since he wanted to avoid fighting. However, his priority shifts to checking on the little girl, who introduces herself as Molly. She assures him she's fine and explains she was gathering herbs but wandered too far from the village and got attacked. When she mentions the village, Takumi eagerly asks if he can visit. Molly agrees to guide him but first asks if he plans to take the rabbit since its meat is delicious. Realizing it would be wasteful to leave it, Takumi stores the rabbit in his item box but immediately regrets revealing this secret skill to Molly. With no way to undo it, they head to the village. Meanwhile, others who were summoned arrive in the Empire of Sedonia, confused and unhurt. A hooded woman greets them as heroes, explaining they have been summoned to save this new world. Elizabeth introduces herself to the children as the Empress of the Sedonia Empire, and her demeanor instantly strikes them as suspicious. Akane's unique skill, enhanced by Nolan's blessing of revelation, activates, guiding her gut instinct to the truth. Elizabeth is deceitful and cannot be trusted. Meanwhile, Takumi arrives at Bor Village, where Molly's parents, Benga and Martha, thank him for saving their daughter. They admire his responsibility in traveling alone and invite him to stay in the village. Although there's no inn available, the villagers offer to build him a house. As they gather in a plot of land, Takumi uses earth magic to level the ground for the foundation. It's his first large-scale use of magic, leaving him nearly drained of mana. The villagers, impressed by his abilities, reassure him that his effort is greatly appreciated. By the next morning, Takumi's house was finished with help from the others. Using his skills in carpentry, blacksmithing, and sewing, he crafted quality furniture for himself. However, he wanted to experiment with something new: metal extraction through alchemy. With ores provided by the village blacksmith Boron, including iron, silver, copper, and magic iron, Takumi started with iron. Normally requiring a furnace and hours of effort, his alchemy allowed instant extraction at the cost of heavy mana depletion. Excited by his success, he continued until he collapsed from exhaustion. Molly brought him dinner but found him unconscious from mana depletion. Thanks to recovery potions from Martha and Benga, he recovered and was warned not to overdo it again. Over time, Takumi extracted various metals, including gold, and used them to create useful tools. He also spent time with Boron at the forge, learning to craft different weapons. The play turns out great, and once Boron finishes the sheath, it will be complete. Takumi's blacksmithing skill has reached level 40, so he decides to focus on something new. He asked Banga for a few potions, and Banga gladly lends him some basic ones. Takumi explains he only needs a template for potion making, intending to create his own using herbs he gathered in the forest. Banga supports his idea and even offers to buy potions from Takumi once he completes a batch. Grateful, Takumi starts crafting, combining leaves and water before storing the potion in a glass jar to compare it to Banga's. While both are blue, Takumi's potion is noticeably brighter and seems to contain magic, though he's unsure if it's a success. To test it safely, Takumi decides to build poison tolerance by consuming small amounts until near death, then using healing magic to recover. Takumi had been at it for hours, feeling utterly drained. On the plus side, his efforts granted him the purification skill, which would surely prove useful later. As he got to his feet, a loud noise revealed a massive, hostile boar charging toward him. Takumi grabbed his spear, but it shattered on impact, leaving the boar unscathed and him defenseless. He tried every spell he knew, but none harmed the creature. Just as panic set in, he spotted a venomous spider behind him, ready to strike. Surprisingly, the spider attacked the boar instead, buying Takumi a moment. With the boar still relentless, he quickly thought of a new plan. As it charged again, he leaped into the air and used his alchemy skill on its head, breaking it down and defeating the beast. Relieved but exhausted, Takumi noticed the injured spider and decided to heal it in gratitude for its help. Once it was safe, he headed back to the village. After receiving a notification, Takumi discovers he has tamed a spider, something he didn't even know was possible. Though hesitant to keep it as spiders are seen as dangerous creatures, its adorable gaze wins him over and he names her Maple. Later, Takumi returns to the village with a giant boar he killed, impressing everyone not only with the feat but also for taming a venomous spider, something unheard of. Since he can't eat the boar alone, he suggests sharing it and a grand feast is held in his honor. During the celebration, Banga gives Takumi valuable boar leftovers, advising him to sell them in the city of Bolton, his next destination. Meanwhile, the goddess Nolan watches Takumi's progress with pride. When questioned by another goddess about why she's favoring him with a special body, blessing, and even sending him a year into the past before his summoning, Nolan simply says she's doing what feels right. The next day, Takumi scolded Maple for waking up tangled in her web and covering the room in silk. The spider apologized, explaining she felt lonely and wanted to keep him close since he was always busy. Realizing he'd been neglecting her due to his potion making, Takumi apologized too and promised to take a break. Overjoyed, Maple jumped on him just as Martha entered with food and saw the strange scene. Takumi quickly explained his pet wasn't attacking him, but Martha's attention was on the silk. Seeing its potential, she crafted clothes from it, impressing everyone. Takumi hadn't realized spider silk was so valuable, and Martha explained it was a luxury sought by nobles. Martha then asked Maple for more silk, and the spider happily complied. Later, when Takumi invited Maple to play, she refused, claiming she was busy. Amused by her attitude, he let her be, glad she was enjoying herself. With time to spare, Takumi returned to his work, noting it had been nearly a month since he arrived in the village and thinking he'd soon need to study alchemy in the big city. Takumi didn't want to leave without leaving a lasting impression on the kind people in the village. He later visited Boron to pick up his armor, and the blacksmith mentioned needing to repair the soles and tips of his boots as they weren't fit for the forest's dangers. Takumi insisted he was just a producer and didn't handle such issues, but Boron knew Takumi often wandered the woods alone and wasn't exactly who he claimed to be. Then Banga arrived, advising that Takumi should move to a city where the demand for materials was higher to advance his work. He mentioned that merchants from Bolton would be coming next week and had arranged a ride for Takumi. Thanking his supportive friends, Takumi then met Martha, who was about to discard the entrails of a horned rabbit. Though tasty, they posed a health risk, but Takumi quickly used his purification magic to resolve the issue. Martha was impressed and grateful, but warned him not to show his light magic in public as few could use it and those who could often made a living from it. While no one in Bolton Village would mind, she advised caution since Takumi was heading to the big city. While waiting for the bolts, Takumi spent his week improving the village, focusing on its safety and efficiency with a high wall and upgraded production equipment. As time passed, Pepek arrived in Bolton and was surprised by the wall. After negotiating with the villagers, Takumi prepared to leave. Boron reminded him of the 100 healing potions he had made for Banga in case the villagers needed them. Pepek admired the potion's quality, holding the bottle up to the sun. As Takumi was about to depart, Martha and the villagers came to say goodbye. Molly asked about Maple, and the pet's owner mentioned she was sleeping. Banga and Baum encouraged Takumi to stay strong, while Martha gave him a tunic made by villagers using threads Maple had produced. Touched by their kindness, Takumi bowed in gratitude. He boarded the carriage, leaving with tears in his eyes, for this was the first city he had called home in Milgard. During the journey, Pepek remarked on how loved Takumi was in Bolton. One traveler couldn't help but cry at the heartfelt farewell. The group introduced themselves, starting with Heath, followed by Real and the quiet bald man, Bogar. Pepek explained they were a C-rank adventurer team called the Lion's Fangs. Heath said they were guarding the caravan, but Real, growing tired of the calm atmosphere, wished a monster would show up. He noticed Takumi holding his bag protectively, which contained his pet assassin spider. Ignorantly, Real peeked inside, only to be attacked. Maple clung to Bogar, who held the spider affectionately, while Papek asked if Takumi had more healing potions, eager to buy them. Once confirmed, the merchant abruptly stopped the carriage, stunned. The adventurers readied their weapons, expecting a monster, but instead, a group of goblins appeared. The lion's fangs quickly left to deal with them, while Real spotted more goblins in the forest and began luring them with arrows. Heath and Bogar fought nearby. 2 goblins circled the carriage, surprising Papek and Takumi, but not Real, who shot them dead. Afterward, Real suggested dissecting the goblins for their magic stones. 3 days later, the caravan reached Bolton, a first for Takumi, who had never been to a large city in Milgard. He immediately went to the Adventurers Guild with the Lion's Fangs to report their success. Takumi needed to register at the guild to stay in the city and list Maple as his pet. He also inquired about joining an Alchemist's guild, but the attendant explained it didn't exist. She noted that many joined the Adventurers Guild just for an ID card, and if Takumi didn't mind starting at the lowest rank, his registration would be permanent, allowing him to accept 1 simple quest per month. Takumi agreed and listed Maple as his pet. Later, Takumi went to Papek's business to negotiate a deal for 100 potions. Papek offered 10 silver coins for basic healing and stamina potions and 50 for mana potions, totaling about 7 million yen or 270,000. Papek explained the low price was due to Takumi being unknown in the area. Takumi wondered if there was a hidden reason for such a generous offer. Papek also asked about Takumi's living arrangements, suggesting he rent a house or workshop if he planned to stay long-term. Takumi, low on funds, was shown a rental property by Papek's employee Thomas. Takumi is taken to a grand mansion, shocked and unprepared to live in such a place. Thomas informs him the rent is only 1 gold and 50 silver coins a month, much cheaper than expected. He jokingly wonders if anyone has died there, but Thomas reassures him that's not the case. Spotting a storage room, Takumi decides to turn it into a workshop and plans to pay rent with the money he'll soon make from potions. Maple wakes up and asks where they are, and Takumi explains this is their new home. When Thomas asks if Takumi has decided, he agrees to take the place. They leave the mansion, and Thomas mentions the move will be arranged tomorrow. Suddenly, Takumi notices a bad smell, and Thomas explains it's due to the city's sewage problem. Nobles can afford magic devices to fix it, but commoners cannot. These devices are expensive and must be found in dungeons or ruins. Sometimes priests purify the sewage, but it's only temporary. The next day, Takumi sets up his workshop, leaving the outer wall repairs for later. He mixes quartz into clay from Papek's company, shaping it with magic, then speeds up the firing process with space-time magic. After much effort, his alchemy and light magic levels increase, but he's drained of mana. Despite his exhaustion, Takumi installs a high-quality toilet in his bathroom. While celebrating, he hears Papek shouting and rushes to check. The merchant is stuck in spiderwebs, greeting Takumi's village children in joy, but he explains it's not common. Papek, however, seems unfazed. After helping him, Takumi apologizes, but Papek brushes it off and asks to use the bathroom. Takumi shows him a magical toilet that purifies waste, cleans the water, and leaves minimal residue. Impressed, Papek asks if Takumi specializes in light magic, but Takumi, recalling Martha's advice to keep it secret, asks Papek to be quiet about it. Papek agrees and immediately orders 100 more toilets, suggesting Takumi hire a slave for protection since his magic is valuable. He explains slaves can guard both property and secrets, especially with rumors circulating that Takumi might be a chosen one of the Church of the Divine Light. Though Papek has ideas to support toilet production, he emphasizes keeping Takumi's identity hidden. Takumi, however, opposes slavery and prefers to handle things himself. Just then, Takumi's guild card glows, alerting him of a quest that must be completed within a month. Feeling overwhelmed, Takumi admits he could use help. Papek, eager to assist, takes him to Mulan & Co., the top slave market in Bolton. While Papek handles business, Takumi meets a woman in the garden who immediately tells him to leave. The company owner introduces herself to Papek as Mulan. Papek explains that Takumi is seeking a servant but is hesitant about the idea since servants were unheard of in his homeland. Mulan acknowledges this but clarifies that in the kingdom of Barkula, servants' rights are protected. Contracts ensure provisions like food, clothing, and shelter, forbid forcing servants to perform unagreed tasks, and requires servants to keep their master's secrets. This reassures Takumi and changes his perspective. Mulan outlines typical contracts: debt repayment, prisoners of war seeking shelter, or those forced into servitude, the most common case. Papek suggests Takumi be considered a war prisoner as they can't leave without their master's consent. Takumi, a skilled producer, wants to focus on his work and guild missions, leaving him unable to manage his mansion's daily tasks. Moreover, he has secrets tied to his abilities and needs someone trustworthy to ensure no issues arise. The boy envisions exploring perilous areas to gather materials for his work, so it would be crucial for the servant to have combat skills to join him on these expeditions. Understanding this, Mulan decides to bring young Maria to the meeting room. Maria, a girl who lost her family after being kidnapped by bandits as a child, has been trained in reading, writing, math, and household tasks. Nervous in front of Maria, Takumi explains that his house has a living room, dining room, and kitchen on the first floor, with 4 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs. He asks if Maria can manage the job, and she confidently agrees but wonders why he seems uneasy. Takumi, puzzled by why such a capable person hasn't been chosen by another master, expresses his thoughts, making Maria blush. She clarifies that she only handles domestic duties and can't accompany a master on adventures. Embarrassed, Takumi reassures her that he never intended to imply otherwise, which helps resolve the misunderstanding. Mulan then proceeds with finalizing the contract. Regarding the client's need for a combat-experienced servant, Mulan admits she currently has no such staff available. Maria suggests Sophia, but Mulan firmly dismisses her input and sends her to pack. After Maria leaves, Takumi inquires about Sophia, but Mulan only mentions that she has issues, leaving him intrigued. The businesswoman eventually agrees to contact the client when she finds a suitable candidate, but the boy, trusting his instincts, insists on meeting Sophia. Reluctantly, Mulan takes him to the elf's room, explaining that Sophia was captured during the war between the kingdoms of Trier and Ugr 50 years ago. Ugr, a kingdom of elves, fell during the conflict. Sophia, who never signed a contract with anyone, suffers from a severe injury to her ear, impaired use of her hand and leg, and sealed spiritual elemental magic unique to elves. Mulan suspects she's under a curse, as these limitations are devastating for a fighter. Despite Sophia's reluctance, Takumi asks to speak with her. To her surprise, Mulan agrees. Takumi introduces himself without revealing his name, and though Sophia insists she cannot be of use, he assesses her abilities and discovers she is incredibly powerful, reaching level 64. However, her injuries lower her status by 100, and an exorcism curse prevents her from using her mana. Takumi believes he might find a way to lift the curse and make use of her extraordinary potential. When Mulan returns, Takumi declares he wants a contract with Sophia Sylphide, confident he can resolve her long-standing issues. Mulan warns him that these problems have persisted for over 5 decades. The boy confidently agrees, prompting the businesswoman to laugh and assure the elf. Meanwhile, Sophia grumbles about the decision, but when Takumi asks if she truly doesn't want to go, she angrily clenches her fists and insists it's unnecessary to confirm the wishes of a mere servant. Regardless, the contract is finalized, and Maria thanks Takumi for hiring her and Sophia. Mulan casts a spell to seal the deal, and Maria promises to work hard to remain Takumi's servant for many years. Even Safi softens and thanks her new master for accepting her. Mulan feels reassured that Takumi will be a good master for both. Upon returning home, Maple knocks Takumi down as soon as he opens the door. Sophia quickly warns Maria to stay back from the creature, but Takumi explains it's his pet and introduces everyone. Though Sophia is baffled by her master keeping a deadly spider, the matter settles as Takumi shows her a spacious room and assigns one next door for Maria. The maids are surprised to have their own rooms, with Sophia initially refusing, thinking it's too extravagant, but Takumi insists there's plenty of space. He also explains the mansion has a magical bathtub that stays clean, much to Sophia's relief. In the following scene, the servants test out the bath and Maria is pleased with her situation. She mentions thinking Mulan would never let them leave, as she had never signed a contract despite any amount of money offered. However, she acknowledges Takumi as a capable master. Sophia examines the contract and notices details like the master's birthplace and lineage are left blank, leading her to suspect he might be hiding something. Later, they are surprised to find dinner ready, which upsets Maria, as she feels useless since cooking was her role. Takumi reassures her, explaining he only made dinner that day and she could resume her duties tomorrow. After calming her, he invites everyone to eat together. Sophia remarks it's customary for masters to dine separately, but Takumi insists on eating together and prefers being addressed by his name instead of master. The next day, Takumi visits the puppet company to collect a magical parcel containing his ordered items. While walking, he discovers a church he hadn't seen before and enters to thank Goddess Nolan for his blessings. During his prayer, he questions why the goddess warned him about the Holy Empire of Sedonia, which controls religion in the country. Nolan answers by lifting him to the sky and explaining she has no connection to Sedonia, its church, or the divine light. There are 2 main religions in the world: the Church of Creation, which has always worshipped Nolan, and the Church of Divine Light, later established to revere a fictitious god. After its founding, the Holy Empire of Sedonia used force to expand its influence, but Nolan refrained from intervening to respect human free will. However, Sedonia's use of a summoning spell caused the accident that brought Takumi to this world. To aid him, Nolan granted her blessing, warning it would last forever, but the portion aiding his growth and connections would fade as he adapted. Takumi now realizes his fortune and encounters were tied to this blessing and understands his future depends entirely on him. A year later in Sedonia, a leader inquired about the summoned heroes. A subordinate reported that the 3 were training, with Homer and Packard initially reluctant but convinced by Elizabeth to serve the Empire. Akira and Yamato focused on swordsmanship under immense pressure. During training, Yamato, reminded of a past defeat, was doubted by others. Determined not to fail again, he raised his sword and returned to the fight. While Akane is summoned for training, she refuses, hating violence. Elizabeth arrives, explaining this isn't violence, but the strength needed to save the world. Ekira vows to protect his comrade, while Elizabeth praises Akane's inspiring companions. However, Akane feels only distrust for Elizabeth, convinced she's dangerous. Meanwhile, Takumi comes home and, as usual, is tackled by his pet spider. Maria and Sophia help him gather his things, but when Sophia tries to grab a magical parcel, Takumi swiftly stores it in his item box, raising her suspicions. Curious, Sophia spies on Takumi in his workshop, where she sees him behaving strangely, cutting his arm with a substance-coated knife while muttering to himself. Alarmed, she confronts him, but faints during the commotion. Takumi checks her condition, healing a wound on her hand and leveling up his light magic. He puts Sophia to rest, and Maria explains her curse causes occasional exhaustion. To help, Takumi combines his magic to heal Sophia's ear, restoring her strength. When Sophia awakens, she urges Maria to flee, but Maria insists Takumi is kind and cured her curse. Sophia notices her mana flow restored, demanding answers. Takumi explains he leveled up his light magic by self-healing after using a poisonous herb ordered from Papek. He also admits calling Maria terrible because she accidentally misplaced his herbs. Grateful for his efforts, Sophia pledges lifelong loyalty to her master. The following day, Takumi visits a large local library, but he is disappointed to find only 4 books on alchemy. The craft seems to be fading, likely due to its reliance on the script of an ancient magical civilization, making accurate translations scarce. Luckily, Takumi can understand all languages, probably thanks to Nolan's blessing. At home, Maria excitedly shares the cutest thing she's ever seen, Sophia kneeling like a knight swearing loyalty to a princess. Maple agrees, though Takumi isn't thrilled about being the princess. After finishing some toilet seats for Papek, Takumi considers a break. When Maria asks if he's making something new, he confirms but also expresses a desire for an impromptu trip to search for rare materials, try new foods, visit landmarks, and explore ruins. He plans to take Sophia as his bodyguard, while Maria stays to manage. Curious about her role, Maple remembers she's a pet and decides to join. Maria pleads to come along, but Takumi insists someone must stay home. Dramatically, she argues that being alone in the mansion would feel like a forgotten toilet in a desert. Takumi, both amused and concerned, notes her comparisons and worries about leaving her behind, especially with her pleading puppy eyes. To test her abilities, Takumi uses his magic, discovering Maria has potential as a warrior, which influences his decision. Sophia supports her request, offering to train them both during the journey. Takumi agrees to let Maria join, and they gather weapons. When asked, Sophia picks a longsword, a 2.5-meter spear, a bow, and 2 knives. Surprised by her choices, Takumi asks if she wants a shield, and she requests a buckler. Then he turns to Maria, who prefers a dagger or short sword after training at the Mulan Company. Sophia warns that relying solely on short blades might weaken her attacks and offers to teach spear techniques. That night, Takumi prepares magical steel ingots for the gear, knowing that metals in this world must be more than just durable. The next day, Sophia begins training Maria, guiding her through stance and strikes, impressed by her progress. Meanwhile, Takumi forges the weapons, infusing them with mana, which also helps him level up various skills and classes. The young man adorns Sophia's weapon with a wing motif and Maria's with flames, then enhances them with spells to strengthen their attacks and support self-repair. He imagines how Maria's knives might look on her thigh, and though far off, she suddenly feels a strange cold and instinctively covers herself despite being fully dressed. The inventive alchemist and blacksmith, needing precise measurements for the armor, hesitates to ask directly and instead crafts life-size dolls of them as a clever solution. Once done, he picks materials like tough boar hide and fabric made from Maple's threads to design the armor to his liking. When it's complete, Maria and Sophia stand in their new outfits. Maria is stunned, unable to believe it's real, and the elf remarks on the perfect fit. She wonders how Takumi achieves such precision, but before Maple can explain, he shifts the topic to the armor's excellent defense enhanced with spider silk. He then presents their weapons, Sophia's sword and Maria's knives. Takumi gives each maid a mithril ring as a spellcasting focus. Sophia mentions the high mana cost, but the blacksmith explains that crafting these items helped him unlock ice and lightning magic. They head to the Adventurers Guild to register the maids. After quickly receiving their IDs, Takumi registers them as a group, planning to take on low-level tasks. Sophia warns him that those missions won't offer much experience, but he's not focused on leveling up. Just then, a group of rough men approaches, mocking the maids and suggesting they join real adventurers instead of sticking with Takumi, whom they insult for his appearance. Takumi steps forward to face them, masking his nervousness with a calm expression. When one punches him, Takumi braces himself, making the blow feel like hitting a solid wall. A man soon intervenes, scolding the troublemakers and asking if Takumi was hurt. Takumi nervously scratches his face as Maria tries to defend him, but the man remains unconvinced. Hans, overseeing the group, defends Takumi, claiming the larger men started the conflict. The receptionist then reveals the man before them is Barak, the local guild master. Barak orders the healing of the fool who struck his comrade and tells the boy who was hit to follow him. Takumi freezes when asked what happened, and the receptionist, sensing mana, asks if magic was involved. Takumi clarifies that no spell was cast. He simply transformed coal into diamond and enhanced his body, explaining why he visited the Alchemist's guild. Barak asks if the two girls are with Takumi, and they confirm. Impressed by their beauty, the receptionist suggests promoting them to D rank, which Barak approves to deter troublemakers. Takumi, surprised by the promotion, feels like an anime protagonist. The receptionist offers to assign missions to help them rank up quickly, and they agree. Hans then assigns 3 tasks: goblin elimination, kobold defeat, and mineral herb gathering. During their first mission, Maple warns about 4 goblins hiding in the forest. Sophia asks for their locations to ambush the first 2, while the others engage the remaining goblins. Takumi realizes his missions are G rank with rewards of 5 to 6 silver coins. However, they encounter more goblins and kobolds than expected. Sophia suspects a nearby monster camp, likely led by a rank C goblin general. Takumi suggests retreating, but Sophia and Maria are confident they can raid the camp. Ki announces she's about to evolve, so the master sends her to a portal. Takumi awkwardly explains it's a mobile dimension unlocked at Spacetime Magic Level 3. Entering the goblin camp, the elf estimates 3,400 goblins, making Takumi panic. Sophia remains confident they can defeat many with long-range magic, using enchanted rings to destroy the horde. The goblin general and a goblin knight emerge, but Takumi, though scared, charges in, relying on magic. Hours later, the exhausted group returns to the guild. Hans, amazed at completing all the missions in just half a day, asks the others to speak with the guild master. Meanwhile, Barak requests an extermination squad with several members above rank D. Suddenly, Maple emerges from a portal, punches the master in the head, and shows off her evolution. Sophia and Takumi are confused, but Maria loves the new spider form. Maple, finally able to talk to the redhead, is happy. Before parting, Hans announces that Takumi has reached rank E, and the girls are now rank F. At home, Maria asks the master for fabric scraps to make underwear for herself and Sophia. Takumi doubts it can be done with scraps, but Maria shows a drawing, explaining it's simple. Takumi, embarrassed, sketches much shorter underwear, thinking that's the norm, but Maria asks for that style. Maple then informs them that Papek has arrived but fainted upon seeing the mutant spider, so she threw him in the living room. Once he wakes up, Papek tells them Lord Bolton wants to meet the alchemist about the purification magic device. In the city, Bolton is amazed by the device's effectiveness and bows, feeling indebted to Takumi. Takumi is embarrassed by the bow, but Bolton is willing to do it as needed to improve his domain. Bolton also praises Takumi for defeating a goblin camp, something his own knights failed at. He advises Takumi to prioritize his safety, especially with the sacred empire of Sedonia after him. A few days later, Takumi, exhausted, delivers the undergarments Maple made. The girls discover he spent 3 days making them. When they prepare to try them on, Takumi panics and runs to his room. There, he questions his actions, only to be confronted by his inner devil, who points out that Takumi actually wanted to try on the underwear, causing him to scream in horror. The next day, the alchemist unveils his latest invention, the refrigerator. Maple is amazed by the cool air as the creator explains it keeps food fresh by halting spoilage. The women enjoy the breeze, and he asks them to close the door. Takumi crafts the fridge using a special alloy of iron, chromium, and nickel, forms it with stainless steel, and enchants it with cooling magic. Maria is thrilled, eager to store fresh ingredients. When asked about color, Sophia suggests blue. Takumi leaves the fridge with them, intending to deliver more to Papek later. Motivated by his fight with General Goblin, he plans to improve household items and armor with mithril and adamantium. He consults Hans, who doubts any local blacksmiths can work with such rare metals, but offers to find someone in Namstel's dwarf kingdom. Before Takumi leaves, Hans gives him a list of local blacksmiths. Since alchemy requires significant mana, Hans recommends mining instead and tells Takumi about Horus, a town northwest of Barcula, where he can gather mithril and adamantium. Takumi can't enter without being part of the blacksmith guild, but by accepting a monster hunting mission, he'll get permission to mine. Meanwhile, Barak arrives with news. With most adventurers hunting black buffalo, trance wood is scarce in Bolton. Trance trees grow in the Death Forest near Horus, and Takumi can use space-time magic to transport them directly. After accepting the mission, the guild master mentions a blacksmith in need of a bodyguard in Horus. If Takumi accepts, he'll be promoted to rank D, and Maria and Sophia to rank E. Takumi, new to escort missions, asks about the lion fangs, but they're occupied. He then inquires about travel time. Hans says it's 7 days by regular carriage or 4 by monster horse, but only regular horses are available. Real then enters, apologizing for using a monster horse. Hans asks if their mission is complete, but Real replies it isn't. On their journey, they hunted a black buffalo, which he brought back before it spoiled. He complained about constant encounters with stronger creatures, but Barak reminded him that adventurers are paid well for such risks. Real planned to return the next morning to join the group, while Takumi invited him home for a bath and rest, which Real eagerly accepted. Takumi later visited Papek, who agreed to lend a monster horse carriage in exchange for ores and more refrigerators. Sophia, noticing Takumi's delay, regretted not joining him. That evening, Takumi and Real lamented the lack of skilled mithril blacksmiths, recalling that one on their list was absent. Suddenly, a hooded figure appeared and Real sensed danger. He grabbed Takumi to flee, but the figure caught them and knocked Real down. To their surprise, Sophia revealed herself, furious for the attack. She drew her sword, but Takumi explained the situation. Afterwards, Sophia apologized for attacking a friend, but Takumi took responsibility for not informing them of his delay. Real, upon arriving at the Alchemist's house, was shocked by Maple's transformation, calling her cute. However, Maple disliked him, leaving Real disheartened. On his knees, he lamented being the only single member, as Heath and Bogar were married. Takumi clarified that the girls weren't his girlfriends, and Real asked Sophia how she felt about him. She replied that her heart and body belonged to Takumi, with Maria offering the same response. Takumi joked that Real should cry in the shower, and he did. Meanwhile, Sophia agreed to the hunt for the trans, and the leader set their departure in 3 days. Real later bid farewell, and Takumi worked on crafting weapons. He chose a large, mana-draining tungsten carbide sword, but it was unwieldy. Despite struggling with alchemy, he split the sword into 2 smaller, lighter blades while maintaining their power. 3 days later, Takumi reaches Bolton's north gate and thanks Papek for the carriage, which carries Gambo, a dwarf blacksmith needing a ride to Horus. At the start of the journey, he praises Maria's horsemanship, and she mentions caring for a horse called Furious God in the Mulan Company. Meanwhile, Hans updates the guild master about increased monster activity in the Death Forest, hoping Takumi avoids strong creatures. Elsewhere, a noble tells Papek that the king is pleased with the new bathroom and requests more in the royal capital. Bolton's sewage issue is improving, but news has spread to the sacred empire of Sedonia, which may soon react. Months later, Akira and Yamato train hard in Sedonia's castle to meet expectations. During a sparring match, Yamato remembers winning a high school judo championship, while Akane fixates on the mysterious Elizabeth. Back with Takumi, he sets a magical barrier for safety before heading to hunt trance. On his way, he asks Sophia how to tell normal trees from treants, and she explains it's done by sensing the mana flowing through them. Sophia directs the group to a specific tree, revealing it as their target. Without hesitation, Takumi attacks, but the tree counters by raising its roots. Dodging swiftly, the alchemist uses an axe to cut it down faster than expected. However, Sophia warns that the battle isn't over. They're now surrounded. Facing numerous foes, the team resorts to magic to clear them out. As they fight, an elder trance emerges. The group targets its roots, but the monster regenerates. Sophia advises focusing on its main body. Takumi engulfs his sword in fire, and Sophia clears a path, allowing the alchemist to strike its left eye, securing victory. He then discovers a rare miracle apple, which excites Maria and Maple, who discuss ways to eat it. The next day, they reach Horus and head to the Adventurers Guild, where Gambo suggests taking on an Iron Mole extermination quest. Takumi accepts the mission, and the team quickly gathers supplies. While mining, he uncovers mithril and soon after discovers adamantite. Suddenly, the ground shakes as an Iron Mole emerges. Reacting swiftly, he uses light magic to stun it, allowing Sophia to finish it off. Maple asks how he knew, and he explains that moles likely dislike light. The group is surprised by how easy the battle was, and Sophia even questions if it was meant to be so simple. Takumi, confused, asks if they actually wanted a tougher fight. Maria, feeling useless, dramatically compares herself to a mole that never surfaces. Despite the commotion, they collect plenty of ore and return safely to Bolton. The next day, Takumi visits Gambo's workshop to learn how to forge mithril and adamantite. Over time, he masters the craft, as these materials are more challenging than magical steel. Once skilled, he forges weapons and armor suited to his allies. He keeps the Thunder Armor, which enhances his speed but requires precise control. He also creates the Wind Lance, Storm for Sophia, and the Fire Lance, Explosion for Maria, who vows to protect him. Sophia wonders if a sturdy shield is possible, but Takumi insists she focus on her own safety instead. Meanwhile, Goddess Nolan watches over her prodigy, sensing future dangers. A year later, at Sedonia's castle, the heroes stand before the king, ready to travel to Samandar and fight for peace. The king grants his blessing. That night, Takumi works relentlessly to forge Sophia's shield, collapsing from exhaustion. From afar, an elf laments that no one can aid the weary alchemist. In Barcula, the king receives a letter from Sedonia regarding purification magic, warning of an impending threat. Clutching the message, he prepares to act. In the days that followed, an envoy from Sedonia approached the king of Barcula regarding the enchanted tools used to cleanse his sewage. The Church of Divine Light had condemned this practice to the Pope of the Sacred Empire, asserting that light magic was a sacred blessing granted solely to their clergy. They demanded ownership of the purification magic circle. With disdain, the king replied that if their deity had truly bestowed this power upon them, they should be capable of creating the magic themselves. Frustrated, the envoy insisted that using holy purification magic for such a purpose was blasphemous. Unmoved, the king refused, prompting a threat to withdraw all priests of the Church of Divine Light from Barcula. Unfazed, the king calmly invited them to leave. Eventually, Takumi learned of the conflict and questioned if challenging the church was wise. However, Papek remained unconcerned, noting that Barcula also had the Church of Creation, devoted to the goddess Nolan. When Takumi asked which deity the Church of Divine Light worshipped, The merchants speculated it was Anat. Regardless, Pepek explained that Barkula valued religious freedom, with many still following the old Church of Creation, whose priests offer healing magic as charity, unlike the highly paid clerics of the Church of Light. After the subject came up, Pepek admitted he had a request. Alongside Marcus Godwin, he had demonstrated purification magic to the king, who now wished to meet the alchemist in person. Pepek stressed that refusing would anger the king, and when Takumi hesitated, the businessman clasped his hands and practically begged him to accept. That night, Takumi announced his trip to the royal capital, Bakuletos, and invited his maids, who were thrilled to visit such a prestigious place for the first time. He set the departure for a week later, using the time to prepare. When Maria asked about the travel duration, he informed her it would take 7 days by carriage. Determined to provide enough food, Maria began making plans, while Takumi mentioned he had arranged for dark elemental magic stones through Pepek to craft enchanted cloaks for her and Sophia, helping them remain unnoticed in the city and during combat. The next day at a street fair, Maria remarked that Takumi underestimated himself, and Sophia agreed, praising his skills and looks. Noticing the elf's enthusiasm, Maria gave her a knowing look, prompting Sophia to quickly excuse herself, only confirming Maria's suspicions that she was in love with Takumi. Takumi visited the chapel to meet Nolan, curious if Anat, the goddess of the Church of Divine Light, differed from her. Nolan insisted she was the only true goddess, and that Takumi would understand Anat's meaning in time. However, she was annoyed by his interest in a false deity. She explained that Sedonia had been drawn to him lately, likely due to certain blessings she had placed on him. Takumi suspected this had caught Sedonia's attention, but Nolan clarified that his arrival in Milgard was due to Sedonia, making blessings irrelevant. When Takumi inquired about the heroes summoned by Sedonia, Nolan revealed she had altered time, sending him a year before their arrival. They would be summoned in a few months. Before he could ask more, she dismissed him and he woke in the chapel, frustrated by her evasiveness. Still, since he had no plans to meet the heroes, he let it go. Meanwhile, 10 months earlier in Sedonia, the heroes were deep in training. Back in the present, Takumi gifted his companions cloaks, and they were thrilled. Enthusiastic, he complimented how stunning they looked in their new attire. Maria immediately realized he had crossed a boundary, and he clutched his head in frustration. He then assured the girls he would craft a custom carriage for the journey, believing it wiser to own one rather than constantly rent. The main challenge was finding a monster horse to pull it, as they were far superior to regular horses. The best option was borrowing one from the guild. Amused, Maria asked if the master knew why Bolton was called the City of Adventurers. He admitted he didn't, making the maid kneel in embarrassment for assuming otherwise. Undeterred, she explained that Bolton earned its name due to the nearby monster-filled areas like the Death Forest, home to unicorns, powerful horses, and griffins, far stronger than monster horses. The group ventured into the forest, and Takumi wondered if dragon horses were related to dragons since they were much faster. Maria clarified they weren't despite their similar appearance. Sophia added that their main distinctions were their rhino-like horns and dragon-like scales. Suddenly, a wild wolf charged at them. Sophia instinctively reached for her weapon, but the wolf passed by, seemingly fooled by the cloak's perception-blocking effect. Sophia removes her cloak, insisting they should also battle the train, which Takumi isn't thrilled about. As they travel, the elf swiftly defeats a giant boar, delighting Maria, who now has plenty of meat for their meals. The group then discovers a dead Trent, and Takumi feels lucky. He was about to buy Trent wood from Pepek, but now he has enough to rebuild the entire carriage. While the team gathers supplies, Maple, bored, wanders off and finds an injured dragon horse. When she tries to help, the creature fires a beam at her, reminding her of when Tum rescued her. She reassures the horse that her master can heal it, but suddenly, 2 giant ants, the ones who injured the horse, attack. Maple traps them in her web, and the horse finishes them with a beam, but soon, an entire anthill surrounds them. She sets up a barrier, but the ants chew through it. Unable to contact her master telepathically, she fears her friends have abandoned her. The horse collapses from its wounds, and as the ants break through, Maple screams for her master while embracing the horse. She later wakes up to Takumi's comforting touch, sobbing as she explains how she had desperately called for help. The team then clarifies why the communication failed. The spider's barrier was so strong that it blocked the flow of mana from outside. Now calmer, Maple explains the dragon horse's grave injuries. Takumi tries a healing spell, but the creature instinctively resists. Though unconscious, Sophia believes it remains cautious. She senses approaching monsters, making it unsafe to stay. Maple panics at leaving the horse, but Takumi reassures her before transporting both it and the spider to his dimension. Sophia warns that housing a high-level beast without a familiar pact is risky and will strain Takumi's body. Though he insists he's fine, the burden soon overwhelms him, and he collapses after dropping a potion. Half a day later, he remains unconscious, but his dimension still functions. Sophia realizes the dragon horse will keep draining his energy unless Maple intervenes. To prevent complete exhaustion, she takes his hand, kisses it, and communicates with Maple inside. She asks if the spider can remove the barrier, but Maple hesitates, fearing the horse will panic. Sophia insists that if nothing is done, Takumi could die, urging Maple to recreate the same barrier from the forest to calm it. Maple finally agrees. Sophia plans to visit Paypek Company for medicine, but Maria volunteers so she can stay with Takumi. After they leave, he feels warmth in his hand and hears his friends' voices, realizing it's time to wake up. Seeing Sophia holding his hand, he is surprised and relieved. Outside, Maria watches happily as they prepare to check on the dragon horse. At Maple's barrier, they find it recovering well. The alchemist suggests taming it like Maple. Takumi channels his energy through a magic circle, fully healing the creature. When asked for a name, he chooses Tsubaki, inspired by the camellia tree. Everyone agrees it's beautiful. Tsubaki nudges Maple, reminding her of her past loneliness before Takumi saved her. To celebrate, Maria invites everyone to a special dinner, which they eagerly accept. At the Baccalatos Palom slave trade company in the royal capital, a beast girl with magical talent is shown to a customer. She pledges to improve her skills, but the man dismisses her, saying he needs someone useful right away, not just exotic. Uninterested in waiting for her to learn, he leaves. A worker reassures Reva that a kind master will come someday. Saddened, she reflects on her master's repeated words and recalls a childhood memory with her little brother, where she promised to send money home, only to face a much harsher reality. Meanwhile, Takumi works late in his workshop and at dawn heads to Gambo's atelier for forging tasks. Sophia and Maria note that he also took on extra orders for Paypek Company, but insists he's not overworking himself. Later, at the Bolton Guild, Takumi overhears Barak arguing with someone. Curious, he asks Hans, who explains that recent monster sightings near the city have sparked concern. Hans sketches a creature based on witness accounts, finding it mysterious but not yet dangerous. An employee asks Takumi why he's there, and he explains he wants to register another familiar. Hans, unfazed after Takumi previously registered a spider, is shocked when a dragon horse appears, identical to the creature in his sketch. Realizing this is the source of recent terror, panic sets in. Just then, someone shouts the monster has arrived, and the guild master orders Takumi to follow him. Meanwhile, Sophia recalls discussing potential servants with Mulan, who promised to search other cities. Maria then tells Sophia she's helping by ensuring Takumi eats properly since he often forgets. Sophia wishes to ease his burden, but knows nothing about alchemy. Maria offers to assist in the kitchen, and Sophia decides she can at least help there. Maria frowns and insists it's unnecessary, making Sophia wonder if her friend feels uneasy about receiving help. Maria admits she does, but since the elf feels the same, they're even. She then notes how much Sophia has changed, appearing more composed and elegant, which she finds adorable. Embarrassed, Sophia changes the subject, urging her to finish shopping and return to Takumi. At Gambo's workshop, they find the alchemist passed out from exhaustion. The blacksmith regrets not stopping him earlier, but seeing the carriage he built proves his efforts. Maria excitedly praises its interior, though Sophia thinks she's exaggerating. Inside, Takumi explains he enchanted the carriage with spatial expansion, turning it into a full home with a kitchen, bathroom, and bedrooms. Thrilled, Maria takes the reins and sets off, while Sophia marvels at the smooth ride despite their speed. Takumi asks if anything is missing, and Maria suggests adding retractable blades to the sides, which startles him, but he promises to consider it. After a fast journey, Tsubaki levels up, gaining new abilities that make her even stronger. Upon arrival, Takumi meets the Lion Fangs and is pleased to have them as his escorts. Heath is amazed by the dragon horse pulling the carriage until Papek arrives with Godwin Bolton and another man, admiring the alchemist's vehicle. Takumi thanks them for accompanying him to the capital, and Papek eagerly steps inside, only to scream in shock. A loud bang follows, prompting the owner to check. Papek is simply overwhelmed by the craftsmanship, astonished that Takumi built it alone. Grabbing him excitedly, Papek demands details about the design until Godwin smacks him to calm him down. Papek apologizes but admits he would love to own such a vehicle. Godwin is more direct, offering 100 platinum coins, equivalent to $6 million, for a similar carriage. Takumi is stunned by the amount. As the journey to Baccalatos, the royal capital, begins, Godwin tells his companion that Takumi's creations have greatly benefited his domain and that the young inventor is destined for global recognition. Takumi believes it is his responsibility to shield the alchemist from those who might be tempted by wealth. While he understands the need to protect people in Barcula, he struggles with the ever-present dangers of the Sedonian Empire, where vigilance is constant. Meanwhile, months later in Sedonia, Akane reads about how the goddess Anna shaped humanity in her likeness, then created beastmen from animals to serve them, followed by elves and dwarves from spirits. Afterward, she uneasily touches the collar of a beast girl in her room. Back in the present, the carriage reaches Baccalatos without trouble, thanks to Maria, Sophia, Maple, and Tsubaki handling any threats. Upon arrival, Papek approaches Takumi to discuss something at the inn. There, a businessman reveals plans to present the king with a carriage similar to Takumi's, believing it will highlight the alchemist's talent. Though building one in 5 days seems daunting, Takumi insists it can be done, igniting Papek's determination to make it happen swiftly. Takumi later informs the maids that Papek mentioned a slave company called Palom, which has a large garden that could serve as a workshop for the carriage's construction. Sophia recalls that the place is owned by a trustworthy man named Bolton, and suggests that Takumi might need assistance as he has exhausted himself during the journey without proper rest. Since neither Sophia nor Maria can help with alchemy, Takumi should find someone qualified while visiting Palom. She warns that his greatest threat might not be external, but his own relentless work ethic. Upon arrival, Bolton mentions hearing about Takumi's use of alchemy to craft a carriage from mithril and adamantite, and Sophia suggests a potential candidate. Meanwhile, Maria rushes to Sophia, distressed that Maple has vanished despite being beside Tsubaki moments ago. Worried, the elf searches for the spider within the company until Reva's terrified scream reveals its whereabouts. Sophia scolds her friend and apologizes to the startled beast girl, who becomes captivated by her. Noticing an old book Reva dropped, Sophia comments on its age, and the girl explains her fascination with magic and ancient texts. Sophia asks about the Encyclopedia of Alchemy Basics, and the beast explains that while some consider alchemical circles outdated, she believes they're the best way to grasp decomposition and recomposition. Later, Takumi finds Sophia and invites her to help find a new group member. In the meeting room, Bolton introduces Reva. As Takumi introduces himself, Reva worries. If she's rejected again, she'll be powerless to support her family. When Takumi mentions needing someone interested in alchemy, she eagerly reacts but hesitates, haunted by past rejection. Sophia reassures her, mentioning she's been studying alchemy and magic here. Hearing about the encyclopedia, Takumi excitedly discusses it with Reva, who compares it to other methods like Aaron Martin's. Encouraged, Takumi draws a circle on paper and asks if she recognizes it. Anxious but determined, Reva analyzes it carefully, desperate to prove herself. Overwhelmed by fear of failure, she starts crying, admitting she doesn't know. Her village uses sweet beekeeper honey instead of fluffy cream. Takumi offers Reva a role as his assistant, despite her failing a challenge. She is puzzled, but he explains that recognizing the pattern was what mattered. Reva, coming from a poor village, requests that her wages be sent to her family, as she became a servant to support her brother's education. Takumi warns that giving away all her money would keep her bound in servitude, but Sophia reassures her that learning alchemy could help her gain independence. Takumi then introduces Reva to the other girls, who warmly welcome her, making her feel at home. Meanwhile, in Sedonia, the king grows impatient with Barcula's refusal to accept his proposal. He considers harsh measures, but Princess Elizabeth advises waiting for the hero's arrival. Instead, she suggests using faith as a weapon by spreading rumors against Barcula, provoking the Divine Light's followers into action. The next day, the talented alchemists use an alchemical circle to create a carriage from adamantite alloy. Takumi explained that its structure was similar to that of spiral sweets and believed Reva would soon craft equally complex items. Doubtful, the beast girl questioned this, but Takumi was confident, noting Reva's passion, a key trait for any alchemist. He then asked her to help synthesize basic parts. On the day of the royal audience, Takumi admired the carriage he built when a man approached, asking if it was his. Takumi replied it was for the king. Impressed, the man revealed himself as Lobos Barcula, the kingdom's ruler, shocking Takumi, who quickly knelt. Lobos, however, asked for less formality. Pampek and Bolton, who had expected the meeting in the reception hall, also bowed. The king explained he preferred informal encounters over tedious waiting room meetings. Setting that aside, he eagerly wished to meet the renowned alchemist and personally thank him for his contributions. The king highlighted Takumi's role in solving the royal capital's sewage issue and humbly bowed in gratitude. Though he would typically host a grand banquet and grant rewards, doing so risked drawing the Sedonia Empire's attention, which Takumi wanted to avoid. Recognizing the king's wisdom, Takumi saw he judged beyond appearances. After the meeting, King Lobos secretly rewarded Takumi, instructing Simon and Galahad to keep it confidential. Simon ensured a gag order, but once Barcula exported the magical device, Takumi's influence would inevitably grow, worrying the king about the Church of Divine Light's reaction. Days later, the group returned to Bolton, where Takumi officially purchased the mansion from Papek. During tea, Maria declined another raise, feeling her current allowance and provided necessities were enough. Similarly, Sophia refused payment, saying her long elf lifespan allowed her to dedicate even her final days to guarding Takumi's tomb. Maria wished to outlive her master by a day so she could be buried beside him. The young man was speechless. Meanwhile, in Sedonia, Elizabeth secured a magical device for purifying sewage from Bolton after a spy infiltrated Bacalatos and retrieved it with great effort. The princess deemed the device a heretical crime, so offensive that even Pope Walbur mourned its existence. The spy revealed that some within the Church of Divine Light urged Sedonia to destroy this evil. Elizabeth insisted the true threat lay in Bolton and vowed to protect the popes and the goddess Anat's honor. The next day, Reva told her master she wanted to join the Adventurers Guild like Maria and Sophia to boost her alchemy skills and mana. Takumi agreed it was a smart move. Reva soon registered and thanked Hans for offering cheap money transfers home. He noted many adventurers used the service. With Reva now part of Takumi's team, Hans asked if he wanted to name the group as all members were D-rank, except Reva. Takumi's team was among the guild's best, though he never intended to be an adventurer. Unlike organized groups like the Lion's Fangs, his team lacked clear roles. Amidst this, Barak approached Takumi, stressing that an adventurer's strongest asset was his body and promised to train him personally. Despite Takumi's protests, Barak mercilessly beat him during training. Afterward, Barak asked for a team name. Takumi hastily suggested, "We are adventurers," which was quickly rejected, earning him another slap. When asked for a meaningful name, Takumi nervously blurted out "Father of Toilets," leading Barak to toss him into the air in frustration. Later, while brainstorming with the girls, Maria suggested Lord Takumi and his servants, but Takumi feared more punishment. Reva then proposed an adventurer perfecting alchemy, his bodyguard, maid, pets, and an alchemist in training. Takumi thanks her for the detailed explanation, but feels the name is too long. Maria tries naming toilets, fridges, underwear, and even Takumi, but he fears such a name might get him launched into space multiple times. Feeling guilty for her poor suggestions, Maria sees herself as a failure again. As tensions rise, Takumi asks Sophia for ideas. Instead of helping, she angrily vows to punish Barak for abandoning Takumi. Fearing things might escalate, Takumi urges calm, reminding her that the man helped him master intuition, body control, and martial arts. Sophia backs down, but Takumi knows this isn't over. 10 months later, in the Holy Empire of Sedonia, Yamato trains with fierce determination. Akira, observing, notes that constant attacking won't work in real combat. When Akane asks if Takumi's style is effective, Akira simply calls him the hero. She reminds him they're also heroes, but Akira dismisses it and invites her for a walk. She refuses and he accuses her of worrying about her slave. Ignoring him, Akane walks off, reflecting that Akira used to be better. Akane reads that Anna created humans, then beastmen and elves to serve them. The Church of Divine Light promotes human supremacy, while the Church of Creation teaches all races are Nolan's children. Summoned by a nation ruled by the Divine Light, Akane questions her role. Though told she's here for world peace, something feels off. Meanwhile, Takumi gives Reva a spell-activating ring and a staff made of ancient trine and mithril. Maple, feeling envious, receives a clawed gauntlet designed to suit her spider form, thanks to Reva's help. Grateful, she thanks them both. Takumi then names their group cat's Claw. When Barak puts Takumi in a sleeper hold, Maria tries to stop him, but Barak slams Takumi down. Fearing Sophia's anger, Takumi is surprised when she instead critiques his weak defense. Later, Haman suggests an easier escort mission, and the guild master offers one to Kilba's, a 4-day round trip with their upgraded carriage. Takumi asks Sophia if there's any rice nearby, and she assumes he means the grain from the kingdom of Samendor, which isn't sold in Barkula. Maria mentions it's available in the royal capital, and since they were just there days ago, Takumi is frustrated at missing the chance. Sensing something off, Sophia asks if he misses his homeland or its food, knowing he left long ago. Sophia replies she prefers the present, having spent nearly 50 years cursed like a caged bird until her pact with Takumi set her free. Now she focuses on the future, leaving the past behind. Maria agrees, saying she too is more excited about what's ahead. Reva, Maple, and Tsubaki share the same feeling. Reflecting on this, Takumi realizes he's also been given a fresh start. Recognizing that they've all helped each other find freedom, he suggests naming their group Wings of Nolan, which everyone loves. 2 days later, after finishing their escort mission, they return to Bolton at night, but when Takumi enters his house, he's hit by a cloud of paralyzing poison. Before he realizes it, Takumi's allies are overpowered by masked men. Just as he's about to be struck, a projectile hits the attacker's weapon, giving Takumi a chance to counter and win. Grateful, he thanks Maple, who is in the mobile dimension, and heals his friends. Maria wonders why Takumi wasn't affected by the mist, so the master explains that he and Maple are resistant to poison and paralysis. The spider takes everyone outside to decide what to do with the webbed men. After recalling when she brought Tsubaki to the stable, Sophia, sensing greater danger, suggests seeking help from the Adventurers Guild. Takumi sends the elf to get Barak. Later, the guild master has the masked men taken away and urges Takumi to report to the Lord due to the severity of the situation. The following day, Godwin Bolton informed his subordinates that the intruders who had broken into Takumi's home were from the Divine Light Squadron, an organization tasked with eliminating those who defy the Divine Light Church's commandments. Sent by the Holy Empire of Sedonia, their mission was to kill Takumi for inventing a magical sewage purification device. Takumi recalled that priests from both the Divine Light and Creation churches previously purified sewage using magic. While the Creation Church offered this service for free, the Divine Light Church charged high fees, making it a major revenue source. Since Takumi's invention threatened their profits, he considered fleeing to another nation. However, Godwin argued he'd be safer in Bolton, where the Creation Church had strong support. To ensure security, Gala had ordered the city's entrances and exits monitored, while Barak advised vigilance when venturing out. Fearing for his life, Takumi contemplated pausing missions, but the guild leader refused as his absence would harm the guild. Despite his concerns, Sophia vowed to protect him, and Barak promised to train him in self-defense. As they left the meeting with the elf driving the carriage, Takumi reflected on how the Divine Light Church of Sedonia was truly after him, endangering Sophia, Maria, and Reva the night before. They headed to the Bolton Guild to register their team as Wings of Nolan, a tribute to the goddess, which Hans found fitting. The clerk informed them that rumors of Takumi's homeland invasion had spread quickly, along with a high bounty on his head, making him a prime target for adventurers willing to take outside missions. That night, the team worried about another attack from the Divine Light Squadron, but they assured Takumi they were ready and wouldn't repeat past mistakes. Though he knew Maple and Tsubaki would help, he felt uneasy having guards at his home. Considering a solution, he thought of creating a magical barrier to block intruders, but they still needed protection while away. Sophia suggested hiring an attacker or tank, but the group insisted it couldn't be a man. Takumi had no leads, and Sophia noted that forming quick bonds with an adventurer was rare. They considered hiring from the Mulan Company, where a magical contract would ensure loyalty. Upon hearing this, Reva expressed her trust in the master even without a contract. Maria and Sophia agreed. That night, Sophia noticed Takumi working late in his workshop. At dawn, the alchemist called Reva to assist in crafting a security device when Sophia arrived eager to learn. Takumi tasked her with engraving alchemy circles onto metal plates. Once finished, he sprinkled powder over them. Sophia noted he hadn't slept, and he admitted he had been devising defense strategies. Meanwhile, Maple trained with Tsubaki against a fake golem, reminding Reva of their alchemical connection. Takumi explained that the intricate magic circle on a golem's chest was beyond his current skill. His partner found the idea of using one as a tank intriguing, but Takumi needed better mana control. Completing the project pushed his mana manipulation to its peak, unlocking spell control. The alchemist considered creating a golem core, while in the Holy Empire of Sedonia, the king learned that the agents of the Divine Light Squadron had been captured without taking their own lives. The messengers explained they likely had no chance, as contract magic was used on them. This raised concerns that the enemy had already identified the squadron as the attackers. Elizabeth advised her father to delay negotiations with Barkula to prioritize Sedonia's magical circle plans. Homer admitted he couldn't analyze it but believed summoning was still possible using ancient texts. In 2 or 3 months, enough mana would be gathered. Meanwhile, Takumi struggled to use a magic stone as Reva reminded him that a multi-layered magic circle was required for the golem to function. Maple questioned why he was so determined to create one, to which he replied it would be a strong defense. Though the spider pointed out he had allies for that, the alchemist feared another infiltration by the Divine Light Squadron. Realizing his need to improve spell control, he considered Maple's suggestion of taming the golem, an idea he hadn't thought of before but might actually work. Takumi asks Sophia where to find golems, and she mentions that lost stone golems wander the western Death Forest, while iron golems might emerge in an ancient dungeon near Hora's. Shocked that dungeons exist, Takumi is eager to fight an iron golem, but Sophia warns that going in without proper backup is reckless, making him realize his lack of experience. They head to the rocky plains where they previously hunted trance and encounter a towering stone golem. Takumi is amazed by its size, while Sophia identifies it as a guardian-class creature. To defeat it, they must destroy the magic stone in its chest, but Takumi refuses. Suddenly, the golem unnervingly twists his head backward and blinks, alarming them. Unsure if his eyes can attack or just detect enemies, Sophia sees the growing danger. Letting it pass seems safest, but the alchemist won't back down, believing it could be an ally. He leaps toward it, forcing Sophia, Reva, and Maria to shield him. Despite its threat, Takumi senses no hostility and stands his ground. He suspects the golem, a ruined guardian, responds to the goddess Nolan's blessing within him. Testing his theory, he raises his hand and easily tames the golem, shocking everyone. When Maple asks its name, he calls it Titan after a legendary giant. Titan wants a more adaptable form, so Takumi invites him to join them. Sophia warns that bringing such a massive being into the city would cause chaos, so he considers using the mobile dimension. Before they act, steam hisses from Titan's joints, and he suddenly collapses. As the dust settles, it shrinks drastically as if collapsing to that size. Enchanted by its charm, Maple asks the master to make it talk, and Takumi promises to try. Months later in Sedonia, Akira and Yamato become strong enough to surpass their trainers, their confidence swelling. Later, during a punishment, they chat with women vying for their attention, which she finds disgraceful. They accuse her of jealousy due to her cold attitude. In the present, Takumi eagerly prepares the golem's new form but warns his companions that enemies are after him. To protect them, he offers to dissolve their contract, but they refuse. Reva questions who will protect him, and he recalls Titan, Maple, and Tsubaki remain by his side. To compensate, he offers them generous pay. Maria, silent until now, stands, points her spear at him, and declares he must face her first if he insists. Takumi realizes he cannot abandon those he values, but Maria insists they have proven themselves. Without them, he cannot soar. Overcome, she weeps, and Sophia remarks his words, meant to shield them, were the harshest. Like Reva and Sophia, she has sworn loyalty. Understanding his mistake, Takumi apologizes and asks them to stay. They reaffirm their devotion, determined that their journey is far from over. Strengthened, they witness the newly enhanced Titan armor, its glow dazzling. The golem, now with a voice, celebrates its powerful adamantite and mithril body, armed with a mace and shield. Takumi reveals a hidden hangar containing a massive Titan, designed to merge with the smaller one into the Great Titan. As the fusion succeeds, he feels true joy. Above, Nolan watches until another goddess arrives with grim news. Traces of Anat, long thought gone, have resurfaced due to centuries of faith from the Divine Light Church. Worse, Anad is turning into an evil spirit, and with Sedonia summoning heroes, war is near. Nolan, unable to interfere directly, confirms she has blessed Takumi, entrusting him with what lies ahead. Meanwhile, Elizabeth stands at Sedonia's magic circle, awaiting the fateful moment. A year earlier, in a settlement near Bolton, a beast woman named Money mourns at a grave until an acquaintance calls her away. Hidden in a train carriage, she overhears villagers discussing how they have nowhere else to go and how their economy collapsed due to the nobles' selfish actions. When things worsened, the nobles abandoned the village and fled, leaving the people resentful. A woman blames them for Manny's husband's death, as he worked until he fell ill without receiving proper care. A year after the village's ruin, Bolton learns Count Rockford took in the refugees. His subordinates are furious at the nobles' cruelty, while Bolton insists they must aid the displaced people. Rockford requests land for 1,000 refugees, but the only available territory is infested with dangerous monsters. Clearing them out will be difficult, but they have no choice. To solve this, they summon the one person who can help. Meanwhile, Takumi considers it a good time for the Wings of Nolan to challenge a dungeon, and as he reaches a labyrinth's entrance, the alchemist reflects on his long-standing desire to explore such a place. Among many dungeons, they chose the second hardest, Beast King Forest, a vast, sky-filled woodland despite being underground. The monsters inside were fewer but stronger than those outside. Maple's keen senses helped the team ambush enemies while Titan absorbed attacks, allowing the Wings of Nolan to defeat floor bosses and claim treasures. After a full day, they reached the final level, thrilled at their progress with minimal harm. Just as Takumi noted their luck in avoiding traps, he triggered one, a rolling iron ball, but they escaped in time. Maple asked if Titan could have destroyed it, and Takumi explained he followed orders precisely. Suddenly, one path sealed off, forcing them down the only route. Takumi sensed trouble, and an S-rank Earth Dragon emerged, making him regret not bringing Titan. The battle heavily favored the dragon, keeping the Wings of Nolan on the defensive. Takumi seizes a brief opening, instructing Titan and Maple to restrain the monster's tail. Maple binds it with webbing, allowing Sophia to pierce the dragon's limb with her spear. Takumi's wind slash, Reva's fire barrage, and Maria's flames follow, culminating in Titan summoning the Light of Judgment. Reva assumes victory, but Takumi realizes the dragon isn't defeated. Rising from the ashes, it breathes fire on Titan, inflicting severe damage. Amidst the chaos, Sophia spots its weak point, the flank. Takumi calls Tsubaki to ram it, and the alchemist hurls an electrified sword, causing the dragon to vanish, securing the dungeon's final treasure. Unexpectedly, Tsubaki evolves, growing larger. Takumi collects dragon remains, seeing potential for crafting. Later, summoned by Goblin Bolton, the alchemist learns of an uninhabited southern land overrun by monsters. Once invaded by Triera, the kingdom fell after its defeat. Takumi notes the region's hidden adamantite and mithril, catching Bolton's interest. Godwin suggests that Takumi establish a settlement on this land, recalling how he swiftly built a defensive wall in Bor Village, proving his skill. His assistant mentions a river and spring about 105 miles south of Bolton, making it a promising site due to its water source and distance from monsters. Sophia worries about Takumi being pursued by the Divine Light Squadron, and Godwin regrets making this request at such a difficult time. However, he is eager to see the settlement completed quickly, as the village was abandoned a year ago due to noble corruption, leaving its people homeless and seeking refuge in Bolton and Rockford. Takumi, once homeless himself, agrees to help. Later, he declines an escort, so Nolan's Wings travels alone to the site, where they use earth magic to build walls, roads, aqueducts, and clear monsters. After significant progress, Takumi sends Sophia to Bolton to summon the new settlers. When she informs Godwin, he is astonished that the settlement is already ready for habitation. After just 10 days of building, the refugee convoy was sent out. People whispered that they were being exiled to the monster-filled southern border to die, easing the nobles' burden. The settlement's management was handed to a wealthy man from Bolton, likely indifferent to their fate. Upon arrival, the convoy's warriors were shocked by the towering walls, sturdy houses, and even a castle. Officer Takumi explained the land was prepared for farming and the wall could repel invaders, except dragons. When questioned, an alchemist stated the castle was for governance, with barracks for knights and a sewage system using magic. Skeptical, the officer accused Takumi of relying on magic, which he did not deny. As they observed their new home, some refugees doubted if they could truly live there. Meanwhile, Sophia approached Money, who revealed she had lost her husband. The elf sympathized and asked if she wanted a different job. The beast woman remains silent, so the elf vows to consult his master. Manny is startled to learn he has one, and the servant explains that this man built the village, and since everyone is busy, might need a cook or similar help. He then goes to speak with Takumi, promising to check on the beast woman later. Hours later, the alchemist offers Manny a job tending to his needs for a negotiable salary. At that moment, she recalls a past conversation about distrusting nobles and how her husband died due to their greed. Fearing history will repeat itself, Manny declines, unable to trust the young alchemist. Maria insists Takumi is different, but he lets the matter drop. Afterward, Manny realizes she cannot stay, convinced she will now face punishment. Perhaps she spoke out of justice, lingering resentment toward nobles, or sheer frustration at her helplessness. Lost in thought, she is suddenly attacked on her way to the forest. Meanwhile, Maple rushes to warn his master that a horde of monsters is invading. Takumi commands Doran to raise the bridges and protect the townspeople. The alchemist insists no creature can climb the walls, leaving Nolan's wings to handle the threat. Manny rushes over, but is too late, watching the bridge lift. Residents tell Maria her friend left via the south bridge. Worried, Takumi gathers his team and departs on the Titan. Facing two massive wolves, Manny believes she's doomed, but Takumi arrives just in time, cutting them down. She warns of more, but he stays calm. The group confirms victory and Manny tends to the injured alchemist. Takumi reassures her, vowing to protect the village. She realizes he is unlike any noble, genuinely kind and extraordinary. Realizing it's too late to turn back, Manny reaffirms her wish to serve Takumi. The alchemist accepts her, and the others welcome their new ally. In Bolton, Doran reports Takumi's success to Marquis Godwin, who speculates that this new town might be the key they seek. Meanwhile, in Sedonia, the king receives news from Trier about a fortress town with a strong castle emerging near Barcula. Reports suggest Bolton's knights and the alchemist's involvement, which Sedonia sees as a challenge. Elizabeth declares that Barcula must not dominate and that Sedonia must rule the continent, hinting at a counterattack. Back with Takumi, he considers using a road for trade when Manny arrives with his lunch. Suddenly, an immense energy erupts from a rock, surging across the continent and alarming Nolan's wings. Maple detects unsettling mana and Sophia grows uneasy. At that moment, Takumi recalls Nolan's time interference, realizing a year has passed since his arrival, just as the heroes are summoned. In Sedonia's Grand Hall, Akira Yamato and Akane appear, greeted by Elizabeth. Akira Yamato and Akane abruptly arrive at the mysterious Hall of Sedonia, where Elizabeth greets them. Meanwhile, Nolan casually observes their progress in the Secret Empire as if watching an entertaining show. One day, another goddess is shocked that these humans became elite adventurers in just 3 months, proving their strength. Nolan senses the nation's next move is near. At the Empire, Elizabeth announces it's time to introduce the heroes to the world. Akira, eager for fame, grows impatient, but Elizabeth insists on waiting. Confident, he questions Akane's indifference. She dismisses it, pretending excitement, though she secretly resents his arrogance. The next day, Takumi reveals a village near Bolton's border, now named Wedgefort, flourishes with trade and new skills. Meanwhile, Sophia's team slays a beast in the forest, and Maple discovers a woodland lizard trapped in webs, an unusual sight. Back home, Sophia warns her family that monster strength may be rising, possibly linked to a 3-month mana disturbance. Takumi considers Nolan's theory that the heroes were summoned. Later, Doran informs an alchemist that Barak requests his return for a mission. When asked about Bolton, the warrior mentions rumors of heroes in Sedonia. Takumi realizes this likely occurred 3 months ago, shocking the officer. Sophia connects the mana shift to their arrival. During a meeting, Manny questions Sedonia's role, while Maria sees divine intervention. Alone, Takumi uncovers the truth. Sedonia didn't just receive the heroes, it used forbidden magic to summon them. The boy sincerely hopes the heroes are truly virtuous and genuinely committed to restoring Sedonia, just as Maria claimed. As they depart for the Empire, the king prays for Anat's blessing upon them. When the carriage door opens, Yamato notices Akane's beast woman companion and furiously questions her presence. Akane explains that Lulu is her assistant, but Yamato doesn't understand why she refers to a slave that way. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and the priests pray for Anat's favor. The next day at Bolton's Adventurers Guild, Hans informs Takumi about the summoned heroes. 2 boys and a girl, all with black hair and eyes. The alchemist suspects they might be Japanese like him. Hans adds that they are being transported to the Church of Divine Light in Romelia and Barcula. Though Sedonia's real goal is to expand its influence over Creation Church-aligned nations. Meanwhile, the Papet Company has requested an escort from Nolan's wings to the royal capital. When Takumi returns home, Manny asks to join the mission. He knows the risks, but she insists she feel too lonely if left behind, and Maria agrees. Though Sophia feels it's sudden, she understands Manny's reasoning and supports her. The Beast Woman pleads to come along, reminding them she can assist with earth magic. Takumi finally relents and asks his partner to coordinate with Maria or Reva, promising to register Manny at the guild the next day. Meanwhile, in the hero's carriage, the summoned men complain about the rough ride. Moving past that, Akira observes that Barcula has many elves and suggests taking some with them. Yamato supports the idea, despite the country's ban on exporting slaves. However, they assume their hero status will make others willingly follow them. He also boasts that they are elite adventurers already exceeding level 30. Akane, on the other hand, sees this as her one opportunity to intervene in Bakulatos, hoping to find a way to change things based on her revelation skill. Meanwhile, Takumi's group heads to the local guild after completing their escort mission. This promotion will raise Takumi and Sophia to rank F and Manny to the rank D, requiring their guild cards for the update. During the conversation, the 3 arrogant heroes of Sedonia barge in, demanding others move aside, even resorting to violence against those who resist. Spotting Sophia and Manny, they become captivated by their beauty and insist on purchasing them. Takumi immediately refuses and tells them to leave if they have no real business. Offended, the heroes demand the slaves be handed over, but Sophia and Manny firmly refuse. This enrages Akira, who attacks Takumi only for his sword to be swiftly broken by Takumi's decomposition magic. Yamato lunges barehanded but is easily knocked down. Seeing his shattered sword, Akira is devastated, though Takumi notes it was merely a magical iron blade. Furious, the heroes warn Takumi that he'll regret defying them, but he counters that attacking adventurers inside the guild is a grave mistake. Before leaving, they threaten repercussions from the Church of Divine Light. Meanwhile, their female companion, Akane, apologizes and introduces herself, shocking Takumi with her Japanese name, just as she is surprised to hear his. As Akane is about to speak, Takumi covers her mouth and warns that he'll be at the Bar-a-Lego Hotel. Walking away, she realizes he's the man her revelation ability mentioned. Meanwhile, the Wings of Nolan discuss the Sedonia heroes, with Sophia calling them unworthy and Manny fearing their hostility. However, the elf notes the woman with them seemed decent. Takumi later wonders if revealing his location was reckless, but Maria reassures him. Elsewhere, Akane and Lulu, disguised in robes, flee through alleys. Lulu wants to stay behind, but Akane insists she's needed. Soldiers spot them, but Sophia intervenes, directing them to Takumi's hotel. Another soldier gives chase, but Maple traps him in webs. Upon arriving, Akane directly asks if Takumi is a descendant of the summoned Japanese. He hesitates, but trusting her promise of secrecy, admits he is, and that his presence is tied to the summoned heroes. Takumi's attendants are also confused, so he finally unveils the truth, insisting they keep it secret. Meanwhile, Akira and Yamato discover Akane's escape, and a religious leader suggests canceling the Romelia visit and returning to Sedonia to reassess their plans. Revealing himself as an envoy of the goddess Nolan, Takumi stuns the women, while Akane realizes the Sacred Empire is the true villain, having disrupted the mana atmosphere with a forbidden summoning spell. Takumi, preferring a peaceful life as a producer, warns that Sedonia's summoned heroes could spark wars, though they still need allies. The Church of Divine Light manipulates them to rally public support. When Takumi asks why certain heroes act arrogantly, Akane explains they changed upon arriving in this world. She distrusts Sedonia's food and purifies everything she eats, suspecting it alters minds. Akira and Yamato, focusing on swordsmanship over light magic, may have been influenced by something in their diet, possibly leading to brainwashing. Akane kneels, pleading for Takumi to free her and Lulu so they can finally escape. The Alchemist dispels Lulu's collar, ending her servitude. Though Lulu initially panics, thinking she's been abandoned, Akane reassures her they will stay together as friends. They embrace, and Takumi urges them to head to his mansion in Bolton. Akane worries about being a burden, but he insists on helping. At the mansion, Akane enjoys a familiar dish from her homeland, bringing her to tears. Lulu hesitates to join at the table, but realizes her life has changed. That night, a guard at Wedgefort spots a massive monster stampede and sends an urgent message to Bolton. Meanwhile, Takumi decides to release his servants from their contracts, wanting them as true friends and allies instead. Maria, Sophia, and Reva are shocked, but he convinces them that their bond should be built on trust, not obligation. Takumi then forges the holy swords Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, capable of absorbing enemy mana. Suddenly, he receives an emergency summons from the guild. Wedgefort is under attack. Takumi quickly joins the Lion Fangs, who are gathered with Barak. The guildmaster warns them that a monster horde is approaching the city, attracted by the people in Wedgefort. The captain has called for help, but since most high-ranked adventurers are away, this weaker group must step in. Takumi feels the pressure, but Hans reassures him that the 3 available teams are as strong as 100 warriors. Real is shocked when the third group turns out to be Scarlet Rose, a team of women led by Marilda. She introduces Barale the tank, Mary the mage, Paula the healer, and Linda the scout. Real clearly dislikes them, and Marilda mocks him for still being alive. Barak ends the bickering, stating that Captain Doran will lead the knights soon, and Takumi must move ahead with the Lion Fangs and Scarlet Rose. The Alchemist departs for the city, leaving Akane and Lulu at the mansion under Titan's protection. Inside the magic carriage, he gives Sophia the sacred sword Amaterasu, forged from orichalcum. Its twin in Tsukuyomi deals mental damage with even the slightest cut. Takumi thinks that combining attacks from both weapons will maximize their effectiveness. Maria informs him they are nearing Wedgefort. Reva doubts many monsters can breach the high walls, and Manny assumes the townsfolk are safe, but she is wrong. He reports that flying creatures have bypassed the defenses and are attacking. Real immediately fires arrows at them before the carriage arrives. Once on the battlefield, Takumi wields Thor's hammer while Sophia summons a tornado as the warriors charge in. Maple asks Tsubaki to target monsters climbing the walls. Seeing Takumi's group, the local soldiers lower the bridge, and the Lion Fangs and Scarlet Rose assure them they can defend the area. Sophia announces that the Wings of Nolan will patrol the perimeter. By sunrise, all monsters within the walls are defeated, and the grateful townspeople cheer for their saviors. Takumi tasks Reva and Manny with tending to the injured, while he, Sophia, Maria, and Maple assist the Lion Fangs and Scarlet Rose. There, Heath reveals something unusual. The monster horde isn't dispersing but retreating in an organized fashion, despite their kind typically acting independently. A Wedgefort guard explains that the monster horde attacks, retreats, and strikes again when humans are resting. Takumi suspects a leader is coordinating them, though Heath doubts such a monster exists. However, the Alchemist believes the powerful mana surge from Sedonia's hero summoning months ago may have triggered monster evolution. Since the spell was banned by Goddess Nolan, its effects on monsters wouldn't be surprising. Marilda notes this extermination will be different from previous ones. Meanwhile, in Sedonia, the king learns of a massive monster stampede near Barcula. He sees this as an opportunity. If the horde weakens Barcula, Sedonia can strike. To maximize the advantage, he orders his troops to prepare using the heroes in battle. His daughter, Elizabeth, suggests extending the attack to Barcula's allies like Samandor before they can intervene. Back in Wedgefort, the lull in fighting is used to treat the wounded. From the wall, Sophia is shocked by the high number of injured. Reva arrives, visibly worried, bringing a meal for the elf. She reveals her concern for Takumi, who is giving away all his potions. Worse, the Wings of Nolan's supply was bought by the Paypek Company, and the adventurers haven't had time to restock. To begin a new batch quickly, Sophia brings up the issue with the leader, but he believes potions only matter when used. The elf insists future attacks are inevitable, and that the alchemist should keep some for himself, but Takumi dismisses the need, saying he'll just avoid injuries. Sophia expected this response. It's why she swore loyalty to him, willing to sacrifice her life. Next, Takumi orders the children to be gathered and protected by Reva, Mani, and Maple. Just then, the humanoid spider warns of strange disturbances in the forest. Takumi devises a plan. A magical barrage will weaken the enemy before Tsubaki charges, and he and his allies will finish off any surviving monsters. The three adventurer groups move beyond the wall and take positions near the horde, which remains still. Takumi, Sophia, and Mary unleash Thor's hammer, a tornado and firestorm, while Reva and Maria attack from the wall. As the battlefield erupts in chaos, Tsubaki and her allies charge in, giving the defense a major advantage. When the front lines take a heavy hit, Reva and Mani rush to safeguard the children, leaving Maria to defend the wall. Heath tells Takumi that the Lion Fangs will guard the left, while Marilda declares that Scarlet Rose will cover the right. During the battle, Sophia charges into a swarm of monsters and unleashes a tornado. Takumi warns her to fall back, but she insists she's fine. Suddenly, the horde retreats, revealing gruesome sights. Larger creatures consuming smaller ones and mutating instantly. Among them, a two-headed winged beast emerges, firing magical energy. Takumi suspects it's the leader. Amid the chaos, Sophia is struck by a tail, leaving her vulnerable as the dragon-like creature prepares to crush her. Takumi dashes in to save her, regretting not bringing Titan. Tsubaki is thrown aside while Sophia, determined to distract the enemy, draws its focus but is hit by its breath attack. This time, Maple, Reva, and Maria intervene, forcing the beast back with their combined power. Takumi and Sophia then launch a devastating assault, Thor's hammer and a tornado dealing massive damage. Finally, the elf throws Amaterasu to Takumi, lands a fierce blow, and channels all her mana into Tsukuyomi for a finishing strike, eliminating the monstrous leader. Severely injured, Sophia drops to her knees as Takumi rushes to heal her. She insists he should prioritize himself, while he scolds her for being reckless. She defends her actions, saying she only wanted to protect him, but he struggles with the thought that she nearly died needlessly. If the girls hadn't arrived in time, the lizard would have killed her. Sophia dismisses her own worth, but Takumi urges her not to throw her life away. The other group leaders arrive, announcing that all monsters have been slain or fled. Exhausted, Takumi collapses against Sophia. He is taken to rest and later wakes to news of his recovery spreading through the house, causing a stir. Marilda and Heath acknowledge his strength to Sophia. Days later, the convoy returns to Bolton to aid in reconstruction, while the heroes of Sedonia leave devastation in their wake, even harming innocents. Back at his mansion, Takumi and his group share a celebratory feast to recover from battle and travel. However, the girls notice Sophia has been distant and withdrawn since Wedgefort, growing increasingly concerned. They urge Takumi to speak with her. Maria regrets being too harsh on Takumi, comparing herself to a broken fountain. Meanwhile, Takumi apologizes to Sophia, who admits she was wrong but acted to protect him. He insists they should support each other equally, as the Wings of Nolan wouldn't be complete without her. Touched, Sophia promises to stay with him forever, until Akane barges in, ruining the moment. Later, Takumi visits Lord Bolton, who allows Akane and Lulu to stay at his mansion. He also reveals that Sedonia's heroes massacred a village, leaving Akane feeling guilty. She knows she must face them one day and won't run when the time comes. Takumi later reunites with Nolan, telling her how Sedonia's heroes keep interfering in his life. She reminds him that fate depends on human choices, but Takumi vows to protect those he loves. As an alchemist, he can create anything, and he wouldn't trade his life for anything else. He also gives Nolan the sweets she requested, and she reflects that he is Midgard's only hope. Only by growing stronger can he change the world, and she believes he will become the greatest alchemist of all time. This is the end of the series. If you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps. Check out this other video too if you haven't.